What exactly is motivation? How do we stay motivated? And how do we get others to stay motivated as well? The key to motivating others within our organizations seems to be to coax or force them to be motivated. However, Edward Deci tells us that our job is to create the proper environment so that our employees and learners can motivate themselves. The power of autonomy leads to the creation of an environment where our employees and learners are intrinsically motivated to display a certain behavior and even go beyond our initial expectations. Let's explore in greater detail what this looks like. How can we lead people in a way that promotes high performance and productivity? In our research, we've discovered that the answer lies in intrinsic over extrinsic rewards and autonomy over controlled management. As follows, we will present the competing theories and evidence to support our findings. There is a mismatch between what science knows and what business does. This is what Daniel Pink stated in his TED Talk on the puzzle of motivation. What Pink was referring to was how businesses today, for the most part, reward employees based on extrinsic factors in an effort to increase their productivity and performance. The thought was simple: give them more money and they will perform better. However, this was further from the truth. What research actually shows is that extrinsic rewards only works for the most mechanical of tasks. Pink shared a study done by Dan Ariely and 3 colleagues on MIT students to investigate the different levels of rewards and its influence on performance outcomes. What they found was that as long as the task involved only mechanical skills, bonuses worked as they would be expected. The higher the pay, the better the performance. But once the task called for even rudimentary cognitive skills, larger rewards led to poor performance. To actually improve performance, Pink suggests an approach that revolves more around intrinsic motivation. This is based around the desire to do things because they matter, because we like it, because it's interesting, or part of something important. Which in my mind revolves around 3 elements: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Pink gives another example. A software company started a 24-hour-a-day movement in which a few times a year their engineers were allowed to do whatever they wanted to come up with a delivered product the next day. These types of exercises increased motivation, interest, and creativity, and sprouted new successful products. It worked so well that they extended it to 20% of the time. Does this sound familiar? Well, this is the same exercise that Google has adopted for years, which allows their engineers free creative freedom to develop better and more interesting products. In fact, over 50% of Google's products came from this approach. Thus, internal, reflective, and cognitive intrinsic qualities in nature are what drives thoughtful reflection and meaningful purpose that can lead to an active autonomous role in producing higher performance and increased productivity. Don't ask how you can motivate other people. Instead, ask how you can create the conditions within which other people motivate themselves. And the answer is quite simply autonomous support. These were Edward Deci's concluding words in his TED Talks on promoting motivation, health, and excellence. Deci's early works showed that quality of behavior is more important than quantity. In fact, you can correlate the quality of behavior to quantity of motivation. Understanding this limitation, Deci and his colleague, Rich Ryan, founded a theory of motivation called the self-determination theory, or SDT. This theory states that you have to differentiate types of motivation, such as controlled motivation and autonomous motivation. In SDT, DC argues that controlled motivation has a negative impact on performance and well-being. This is due to negative emotions, anxiety, and pressure that may arise, while autonomous motivation will induce volition and choice while endorsing that behavior during practice. Autonomous motivations are created not only when a learner is interested in what they're doing, but also when they like what they are doing. The motivation is naturally generated and allows for the self-driving mechanism to move the learner into action. Autonomous behavior engages a learner's choice, thought, and self-driving interaction. By allowing the learner to play like a child, we may increase their curiosity of the world and natural exploration. Teaching in this way, we may promote the thinking that opens up a wider range of possibilities, which is where the intelligence lies. Throughout our instructional planning course, we have learned and experienced many facets of education theory and practice that have enlightened our understanding of designing meaningful instruction for employees of organizations. To implement an effective instruction, we must not only learn from past foundational theories, but also diagnose the learning environment utilizing human performance technology. We must acknowledge both the impact and influence organization environment and culture has on learning and practice. Only then can we soundly select the most compatible communication and technology tools to best fit our needs towards facilitating a fruitful and effective working environment. To enhance corporate performance outcome, we selected defining theories that will facilitate intrinsic qualities of self-efficiency, motivation, and interest that is shown to increase organizational effectiveness and positive outcomes while facilitating an environment of open discussion and autonomous behaviors. The catering of learning types must also be considered due to both differences in context and learner types. Of all theories analyzed, those that support effective and improved outcomes include constructivism, pragmatism, social-cognitive, conditions of learning, and cognitive revolution theory. Vygotsky's constructivism assumed a learner's maturation and development from the world he or she interacts, which is limited by boundaries of physical reach and shaped by environmental factors such as cultural upbringing. Thus, a learner is shaped by their environment. Constructivism, in a sense, is one of the earlier forms of social learning, as increase in accessibility and increases in learning potential. This theory supports facilitating open discussion and autonomous behaviors. John Dewey's pragmatism focused on processes that are practical in achieving goals within the workplace. This is also supportive of positive outcomes of corporate environments by reducing the wasteful use of resources and processes that have no real practical implications for relevant work. Albert Bandura's social cognitive theory promotes learner self-control, self-regulation, and self-efficiency, which are established during the early stages of student-led instruction, where students are encouraged to direct and take accountability for their own learning. This gives them a sense of accomplishment, success, and positive outlook. Bandura's research showed that the mere act of believing in success increases the likelihood of success. Of the most relevant and prominent in our instructional design is that of Robert Ganji, who introduced the conditions of learning. This theory stipulates different types of learning that requires different types of instruction. We believe this theory to be relevant as diversity in culture, gender, age, and educational background within organizations all introduce variances of learner types that one-size-fits-all solution can never address. Finally, Recent developments in cognitive development by Jerome Bruner advocated the support and development of intrinsic qualities that was most ignored by behaviorists. Bruner believed that learners of any age could understand complex knowledge given the right construct of instruction. Bruner promoted ideas of self-efficiency, self-discovery, and forward-thinking towards open possibilities beyond the information learned. These theories combine to help prepare us as technology leaders to construct the best possible instruction within our current knowledge and experience, while adopting perspectives open to new opportunities and creative solutions. We realize that these principles should not only be implemented by our designs, but also adopted for ourselves in the pursuit of better instruction. Human Performance Technology, or HPT, is a systematic approach to improve productivity and competence using a set of methods and procedures. This is a method or a strategy for solving problems, for realizing opportunities related to the performance of people. This process involved 5 steps: the performance analysis, cause analysis, intervention selection, evaluation of results, and change management process. The performance analysis consists of performing a gap analysis of present and desired performance outcomes. First, we conduct qualitative and quantitative studies to collect data and observe human-technology interactions and their influences on productivity and effectiveness. Next, we identify the expected level of performance we wish to achieve through our instruction. The difference between the current and expected outcomes is identified as the gap in performance which we aspire to fill. A cause analysis is then performed to identify the causes of the difference in the present and expected performance outcomes. This enables us to design instruction and select interventions that mitigate or eliminate negative factors detrimental to the success while promoting factors positively influencing effectiveness and productivity. During the intervention selection stage, we then choose technologies that best fits our needs identified based on the cause analysis. At the same time, we must consider and leverage on our foundational theoretical knowledge and research to implement meaningful instructions for our corporate performers. As human performance technology is meant to enhance the work environment directly, we must observe and measure its progress and results to evaluate actual effectiveness. Based on the results, we may make modifications to the selected interventions to continually improve both during and after implementation, while addressing any negative impacts that may be attributed to unseen factors, such as changing the environment or learner context. The process of continually monitoring, evaluating, and modifying is known as the change management process. When designing meaningful instruction, the overall organizational environment and culture must be considered to determine the best option for presenting instruction. Interactions between sociocultural, political, interpersonal, and technology may drive both positive and negative impacts depending on each particular organization's context. The designer must consider how influences, such as that of sociocultural, can impact the learner's attitude and motivation towards learning content. Sociocultural influences can affect the values that underlie people's attitudes and behavior. They can shape an individual's perceptions and expectations about work, as well as the way they interact with their colleagues in the workplace. Robley and Bandero found that information technology can have a strong positive effect on the politics of an organization. By allowing for transparency through data availability, technology can help inform organization members to facts and ensure that the narrative in the business is driven by the leadership rather than by peer-to-peer discussion. Alcorn and Stein states that developing an organizational culture and identity affects the interpersonal relationships of employees in an organization because it shifts the focus to who the employees are as a group, organization, or network who share interpersonal strategies. This often helps to relieve intrapersonal issues of individual employees, such as coping with stress in the workplace. Finally, technologies such as mobile internet access, Internet of Things, and cloud technology can improve organization and culture effectiveness and efficiency by enabling higher social connectivity, faster customer feedback, real-time product monitoring, robotics and automation, and social learning for improved employee training. As a result, as instructional technologists, we must realize that alone we may not have a complete control over the learning process or learning environment. We must work with all stakeholders as a team to facilitate a high-performance working environment affected by our political, sociocultural, and interpersonal, and technological factors. Communication and technology can be a double-edged sword. Used improperly, they can create distractions, reduce performance, and waste valuable resources due to irrelevant work interruptions that lead to negative outcomes. However, as technology leaders of tomorrow, we have great potential and control over positively impacting organization performance and social values. As informed professionals on the proper integration of technology, we can cater instructional design and implement emerging tools that increases interaction, collaboration, and open discussion for forward thinking within the organization. For example, we can use technologies such as Facebook and Twitter as work-relevant interventions to increase participation both inside and outside of the organization. This can be used to inform, educate, and encourage both workers and customers to improve corporate efficiency and effectiveness. We can also utilize online tools such as Skype and GovLoop to increase communication interaction and leverage the knowledge and expertise of professional communities to practice and improve learning to enhance problem-solving capabilities. As a result, we can be selective in designing interventions and support tools that can best facilitate positive organizational effectiveness and productivity. Technology leaders need not only design meaningful instruction for their employees, but they must also do the same for department managers. It would be helpful to create a guide based on employee training information to share with those leaders. This way, all members will have an understanding of what motivation looks like and how to create the environment that allows it to thrive. Department heads and managers need to be sure they evaluate types of trainings within their organization. Once they decide whether it is a simple procedural process or a more complicated creative activity, they will know whether to offer extrinsic rewards or allow learners to be intrinsically motivated to embrace and go beyond the learning. Department heads and managers need a rationale for their work. In addition, they need to be able to explain why to their employees. Daniel Pink tells us that there's a rich body of evidence showing that when people know why they're doing something, they do it better. So by giving our leaders a rationale, we have made them more motivated. In addition, we need to lead our department heads and managers to be aware of controlling behaviors. While it is healthy for leaders to recommend ways of thinking or behaving, these recommendations become controlling when they attempt to overrun the employee's perspective. Again, we must reinforce to our managers this idea of creating environments where employees are able to create their own motivation. It is the leader's responsibility to implement current and potential technology tools to help facilitate motivation with their employees. For creative processes, leaders should advocate that their employees use tools that allows for creativity and individual expression. This way, the user can be empowered to achieve self-actualization. Tools for creativity include those from Apple, Microsoft, Adobe, Google, and other online tools and purchase resources. There is no greater way to facilitate motivation than to allow people the ability to select and use their own technology tools. When users have the freedom to use what they are comfortable with, they become more engaged and transcend to what Maslow described as a state of being. To help users become absorbed in the content, rather than tripped up in the instructional process, leaders should provide them opportunities to discover the learning on their own. This can be done by using technology tools that are easy to access with a link or have simple, intuitive instructions. Flipgrid, Google Tools, Padlet, Lino, YouTube, and links to various products are all examples of current or potential tools. Daniel Pink states, "For creative processes, we need to allow learners to select the tools for themselves to do the things that matter to them. In addition, we should allow people to use these tools in a way that were not necessarily intended for the tool to enhance their creative process. Finally, by allowing them to create and respond in the way they want, they become motivated and they are invested in the learning." When leaders create opportunities by allowing choices in their technology tools, the users will go beyond their learning and express their passion. These choices are one of many which can lead to increased learner motivation. Employees should use tools that increase collaboration. These build relationships within a group of workers to meet Maslow's psychological needs and Bruner's needs for reciprocity. When they communicate together, they create what Bruner calls meaningful relationships. Tools for communication include Google Tools, Microsoft Online Tools, Padlet, mind mapping tools, email, shared calendars, phones, text groups, video conferences, discussion boards, among others. As leaders, we need to help our people go beyond the simple training. To expand on their learning, employees need a way to retrieve previously learned information and apply it in their individual settings. This could include a section of thought-provoking links to either learn more about the tool or to see how others use the tool. For simple, procedural processes, technology tools need to be simple and streamlined. Leaders can pre-select tools to allow learners to arrive at the outcome in a quick and simple way. Google Forms is a great tool for this. According to Malcolm Gladwell, learners are more invested when leaders teach and lead with the tools that matter to them. Be sure the tools are helpful, especially with productivity. If their productivity is streamlined, this gives them more time to pursue their passions and increase their expertise by contributing to their 10,000 hours. This would include tools such as calendars, spreadsheets, and word processing documents, as well as communication tools such as phones, emails, texts, chats, and video conferencing. Learners will be more motivated when leaders develop an understanding of how they use tools and how they feel about tools. Once the leader gains a good perspective on employee relationships with the technology tools, it will lead to a better job of successfully selecting and prescribing what tools are used. When this happens, employees feel heard, and they are more motivated to use those tools. DC states, that people need opportunities to be self-starters. For this to happen, leaders need to keep this in mind when designing training with technology tools. Allow those who want to participate to do so. With online training, provided by a link or within the learning management system such as Blackboard or Canvas, learners can do it on their own time. They can also learn more if they wish to extend their training or choose whether to integrate their learning or to learn in a way that works best for them. Finally, when a leader has to use a specific tool for learning, it would be helpful to provide the rationale for using that tool. DC states that when an employee understands the rationale behind a decision, they are more invested in the training. As a result, leaders should give the why behind the choice, which can increase the motivation for utilizing that specific technology tool.